And this is why I think so many Christians have deep-seated sexual problems. Because we were raised in homes where the basic message kind of hovering in the air, whether it was actually said or not, the basic message hovering in the air was spirit good, body bad. Especially those parts of the body. But Paul tells us that those parts of the body that we think are less honorable, these are the parts of the body that deserve all the greater honor, because God has given these parts of the body all the greater glory. It is only our blindness caused by sin that leads us to think these parts of the body are dishonorable. Who made your body? Who made you a male or a female? Can I say it plainly? Who gave you your genitalia? The Lord on high, the God of the universe. And he looked at you, forming you in the womb, and said, behold, it is very good. What I have made is very good. I am fearfully, I am wonderfully made. My brothers and sisters, the devil does not have his own clay. The only clay that exists is whose? God's clay. And it is very good. Do you know what evil is? Evil does not exist in its own right. The devil can't create his own evil world. Evil is when the devil takes God's clay and we, in collusion with him, agree to it. The devil can't force us to sin. But we become deceived in our own broken humanity and we follow his deception. And the good clay of the Lord gets twisted up. And so redemption does not mean throwing away that twisted clay. What does redemption mean? Untwisting it, restoring it. This is why we must, if we are Christian and we're really living a biblical life, we must reclaim the truth of our bodies. And that is a journey, a long one and a difficult one, of reintegration of the physical and the spiritual, of body and soul, of spirituality and sexuality. This is the journey the Lord invites us on. Let me just do a little poll here. How many of you were raised in a Christian home? Can I see a show of hands? How many of you would say that in your Christian upbringing, there was open, honest, normal, healthy conversation about God's glorious, beautiful, stupendous plan for erotic desire? Please raise your hand. One person, 1.5. %98 of us, when it comes to this fundamental hunger for love and union, which, if we're reading Genesis, defines us as image of God. The early Christians spoke of that yearning, that ache, that passion that the Greeks called eros. And although we don't see the word eros per se in the New Testament, nonetheless, when the early Christians started to evangelize Greece, they started incorporating their language and redeeming it, injecting it with Christian meaning. And so look at the writings of the early Christians, and you will see them speaking of eros as a synonym for agape, divine love. That eros is meant to express agape. How do we know? It's right there when Paul says, husbands, love your wives. How? How? As Christ loves the church. That's eros expressing agape. In the beginning, eros expressed agape, but it got cut off from agape. We could say that agape is God's wine poured in to eros. But what happened with the original sin is that we all ran out of wine. Where does Jesus perform his first miracle, and what does he do? We'll get to that. So 98% of us, when it comes to this fundamental ache and hunger for love called eros, we were raised on what I call the starvation diet gospel. And the basic message in the air, if your upbringing was similar to mine, might have gone something like this. Whether anybody actually came out and said it might be another thing, but it's just kind of in the air. Your desires are bad. They're only going to get you in trouble. You need to repress all that and follow all these rules, and you'll be a good, upstanding Christian citizen. I tried that because I wanted to be a good, upstanding Christian citizen. I really did. I tried that. Do we think the Lord has abandoned us? I know it seems like he's sleeping on the boat, right? And yeah, that's right in the Gospels. He's sleeping on the boat, and there's a major storm. And it's okay to go wake him up. Let's wake him up. Jesus, we're afraid. There's such a storm here. We don't know what the heck to do. Please wake up. What's wrong? Don't you know who I am? Don't you trust me? You don't think I'm Lord of the universe? You don't think I know what's going on? You don't think I know every last detail of what's going on in every human life on planet Earth? Don't you think I know all the hell that's been wrought by the sexual revolution? And don't you think I already have a perfect plan to bring about my redemption? Don't you think I already know how to calm the storm? We put up our dukes against this enemy. Who are we fighting? Are we fighting the government? Are we fighting a gender-confused lobby? Is that who we're fighting? No. Who are we fighting? We're fighting a spiritual battle. We're fighting the enemy. We have to, if you're going to win a war, you got to know who your enemy is. Our enemy is not the people who are lobbying to change all society. Those are our brothers and sisters who've been deceived by the enemy. We need to fight not them, we need to fight the enemy. And we need to have the courage, like Saving Private Ryan, to go behind enemy lines to pull our brothers and sisters out of that. With love, with tenderness, with compassion, not with, you're the problem. No, the enemy's the problem, and they've been deceived by the enemy. How do we fight the enemy? Not with this kind of sword. We got to put on the armor of God. What I'm about to say now, despite everything I said about note-taking, you might want to jot this down because it's probably the most important thing I have to tell you. Are you ready? Yes. It is no coincidence that Ephesians chapter 6 comes after Ephesians chapter 5. Did you get that? Don't forget it. I know it's a stupid joke, but in all truth, it is very profound. What does Paul tell us in Ephesians chapter 5? He tells us the meaning of our sexuality. He tells us this is all a prophetic and great mystery that's meant to proclaim prophetically the very gospel, the very proclamation of the gospel. Your body proclaims the gospel. That's what Paul's telling us in Ephesians 5. So where's the spiritual battle going to be fought? It's going to be fought on the ground of the body. That's where the spiritual battle's fought. The battleground is the body. What does Paul tell us in Ephesians 6? You want to live what I just told you in Ephesians 5? Get ready for a war. Get ready for a war. But let me tell you how to win this war. You got to put on the armor of God. And before he tells us about the sword and the Spirit, before he tells us about the helmet of salvation or the breastplate of righteousness, what is the very first piece of armor Paul tells us we got to put on to win this war, my brothers and sisters? What is it? Not the helmet of truth. Gird your loins with the truth. Y'all know what your loins are, right? Are your loins girded in the truth? If they are not, my brothers and sisters, we Want to fight City Hall? We want to fight the government? You want to fight this battle? That's not the enemy. You're fighting the enemy. And if your loins are not girded in truth, boom, you will be taken out. It's as simple as that. Theology of the body, my brothers and sisters, and I think you will believe me by tomorrow afternoon, we'll gird our loins with the truth to be able to win this battle in the right way.